What is going on, guys? Welcome to the only football channel. I'm shooting a gun off, a finger gun, because those are my fireworks. Because we have made it to the beginning of the NFL regular season. The preseason is over. Can we just all take a moment and just the preseason coming to an end, right? Always love preseason. I get super excited when preseason time comes around, but ultimately, I'm more happy when it leaves, baby, because that means that the regular season is starting, and we are going to do, in fact, a NFL game by game picks and stuff like that. If you're new to the channel, generally, we will make our picks on Wednesday, and on Monday we'll talk about where we were wrong, where we were right, stuff like that. So I dropped my pen out of my pocket. 1 second. Oh, wow. Oh, it's right here in front of me. So I'm actually just excited because I was watching a video earlier today of Pat McAfee. It came up as my recommended whatever the algorithm is. It was like, you're going to love this video, suggested videos, I think it's called. And it was him reacting to Colin Cowherd's top 10 quarterback wide receiver duos in the NFL. And the guy that they were interviewing said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I haven't watched a single minute of preseason. And I thought to myself, well, why are you here then? Like, if your job is to talk about the NFL, why wouldn't you watch preseason? There is so much football that is, there's more to learn about your team during the preseason sometimes than the regular season. For instance, all your starting lineups, your first stringers, we already know who they are, right? There's nothing to learn there. We know that Barkley's a baller. We know that Daniel Jones can, win a wild card playoff game. But do we know who, Jareer McLaughlin? Do we know who he is? Do we know who, Lil Jordan Humphrey is? First name Lil Jordan Humphrey. Do we know who people like that are? I'm watching these games and I'm learning more about my team, probably in the preseason, than I normally do in the regular season. So, what am I trying to say? I don't understand how somebody that's in NFL media could just not watch the preseason. And I'll give you one reason why, and that is the things that I learned this preseason, right? That I'm going to discuss with you. That is the reason why I think preseason is valuable. So I wanted to go over what I learned this preseason, because then I thought to myself, being devil's advocate, I said, you know what? If you're going to say that preseason matters without looking anything up or finding an article somewhere, what did you learn about anything in the preseason? What did Kyle learn? Okay. And here I go. Before I do go, I want to hit this comment. We got Bill in the chat. What's going on, Bill? He said, Dak W with success calling plays was a surprise from the weekend. Not a big one, but still a surprise. Yeah, and I think we saw Dallas, or maybe it was another team. I think it was Dallas a couple years ago on Hard Knocks. No, it wasn't. It was Kyler Murray. It was when the Arizona Cardinals were on Hard Knocks. And that's when Cliff Kingsbury, I'm probably butchering that, Kingsbury, the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, who is now enjoying the Philippines, he made Kyler Murray call plays, and he was like, yeah, not as easy as it looks. And it was like there was some tension there. But anyway, we've seen that a couple times, and that's a great example of a surprise. So here's some of mine, okay? And I'm gonna write these down and as we go through here. My number one surprise for this preseason, and I'm not ranking them in any particular order, okay? Um, one thing I'm gonna say is Justin Fields' connection to DJ Moore is already looking very strong. Okay. We've seen in the past people get players and it looks good on paper, but for whatever reason, the chemistry, the rapport isn't there. I think what I'm seeing from Justin Fields and DJ Moore looks very promising. And I think that's what Justin Fields is going to need to take the step. And some people have Justin Fields taking a huge step. You can make an argument that there's more hype around Justin Fields' development this year than any other player in the NFL. I'm hearing MVP, right? And I don't necessarily think that. But if he were going to win MVP, he would have to have a 1,500-yard receiver. And before DJ Moore got there, I didn't know if they had a 1,500-yard receiver. I like Daryl Mooney a lot, but is he going to get 1,500? So right away, I'll start off by saying I think Justin Fields and DJ Moore are going to look really good week one. I'll go number 2. CJ Stroud is going to take longer to develop than people thought, and Anthony Richardson is more pro ready than people thought. I'm looking for Anthony Richardson to look really good right away and surprise a lot of people. I saw him make a couple plays that I can't unsee. I don't care if it's preseason. If you do certain things, you got it. And from what I saw from Anthony Richardson, I mean, fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, you know what I mean? So he fooled me once, okay? Once the season starts, we'll see if he's the real deal. But right now I'm leaning towards, and look, this is just from what I'm gathering during the preseason. From what I've gathered during the preseason, Anthony Richardson is more pro ready than we were led to believe. CJ Stroud needs more developing than we were led to believe. Okay. So obviously a lot of these are quarterback receiver, stuff like that, but that's not it. But we will talk a little more quarterback here. Sam Howell has a chance to surprise some people. He got one start at the end of week 17. Okay. And for all the reasons I said on the last episode, the Washington Commanders have a chance to surprise some people. Dan Snyder being gone, Chase Young, if he can stay healthy, Sam Howell, a 6th-round pick, by no means any serious investment to the team. Can he go out there and play loose? Can he go out there and play like he's got nothing to lose? Because he doesn't. A guy like Sam Howell gets one season to prove that he deserves to be a starting quarterback in the league. What's he going to do with it? Well, so far in the preseason, and that's been 2 total games, at the 2-game mark, he was 19 for 25, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I mean, we're 28 of 37, 122 passing rating. Eric Bieniemy could be a head coach next year if Sam Howell comes out. And from what I've seen in the preseason, I do think that Sam Howell might just surprise a person or two out there week one. And for week one, I'll tell you right now, I got the Commanders winning at home. Dotson, I think Jahan Dotson, I made a short about this. I think he's going to be a breakout candidate. I think Dotson, I think he has the potential to be a wide receiver number 1, which is like, why is that such a big deal? Well, because they have Terry McLaurin on this team and they paid him. So the Commanders have pieces. The Commanders have overall a solid football team. They have a roster. Can Sam Howell lead this team to a 7, 8, 9 win record? What would it take for the franchise and the new ownership to make not a long-term investment, but one more year of an investment in Sam Howell? He's going to have to go out there and play pretty good. Dotson's going to have a breakout year. Eric Bieniemy is going to have to call some strong plays. But overall, I think Sam Howell's play in the preseason has given Commanders fans something to be excited about going into the regular season. And as a fan, a true crazy fan, of my team, I know that there's nothing better or worse than having hope going into the regular season. And that's something the Commanders maybe haven't had in some time. So I'm actually rooting for the Sam Howell experiment to go well. Steve in the chat. Oh, great. Bill is here. Happy to have you in here, Steve. But yeah, this is a defense that can, keep last year they had 21 points per game defensively. That was tied for 7th. If they can keep the team in the, the top 5 or even top 10 defensively, we know that they're going to have probably a top 5 defensive front with Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Real quick, did you guys hear about the arrest that happened with the Dallas Cowboys defensive lineman Williams? He was arrested. I don't have the details in front of me, but he was smoking pot, or he had pot on him. He was going like 95 and 50. He had guns on him. Can we just make a rule that if we're going to break one law, we can't break the others at the same time? Why is that not understood? If you're going to drive around without insurance, don't drive around without insurance with a gun and smoking a joint while speeding. You can only do one at a time. You can smoke a joint and drive the speed limit. You can speed, but you have to be sober. You can not have insurance, but you can't be high or speed. In no scenario can you break all these laws at once and expect not to get pulled over. It's literally like blindfolding yourself in the middle of traffic and trying not to get hit. Okay, rant over. This guy has the potential to have generational type money, and he just had this contract given to him. I mean, this is like, come on, you had an opportunity to set up, the next what do you call it? The next wave of your your last name, whatever the hell. I'll clip this out. I can't remember what it's called. The next generation. Jesus. And you're out there messing around. Come on. Especially on this Cowboys defense. Like sometimes I get it when I hear like the Texans or something. I'm like, well, it's the Texans. Like they suck, guys probably drinking his sorrows away. This is a defense that has a chance to be the best in the NFL, really, with all the things going their way. So I'm just hoping Dan Quinn can get this guy under I think he refocused, right? You got to focus. That is not focused, right? And we know Jerry Jones, he turns the other way when it comes to like discipline and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if you want to actually win a Super Bowl, you're going to need people to be a little more focused than that. That's not good enough from your starters after losing an NFC game, right? I mean, you won one game, okay? Then you lost, and you won the easiest game there was in the NFC against the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, man, these guys should be pissed off about the way things went down, because they gave that game to San Francisco. Dak threw a couple terrible interceptions. They should have won that game if they would have played a little bit better. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But the point is this defense should be thinking, we need to go get what's ours, right? And that's not the vibe I'm getting right now. I am high on that defense though. So anyway, that's another thing I learned. Steve said, you take them out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of them. And that's like a double reference to, well, there goes the neighborhood. One of my favorite movie quotes, Longest Yard, Michael Irvin. Great movie. Great movie. So those are a couple quarterback things that I've learned. Another thing I've learned is, did you guys see the Broncos game that just happened on Friday or Saturday night at 6 p.m.? Oh, did you guys think you were going to get away with me not bringing this up? Because you weren't. Hold on. Just for this segment, let me put on the Broncos bandana. So, Bill said, Texas is constitutional carry state, just FYI, no permit needed anymore. Guys giving away $6.5 million, and it's dumb. Yeah, I mean, the video that I saw said he illegally had firearm. It was a short from Microphone. So I don't know. I mean, you can legally carry a gun, but you can't legally carry a gun that isn't registered. So it's not really about his right to bear arms. It's him having a gun that maybe is, a dirty gun, maybe the serial number scratched off, something along those lines. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I do. So the Broncos won their preseason game. It was a pretty close game, 41-0. 40 effing 1-0. And can I just say, this was very promising. And I'm gonna say right now, I know it's preseason. I understand that, but I watched the entire game twice. Okay, and one thing that I saw was Denver not making mistakes. Right, their offensive line was holding up. Russell Wilson did not play. They went with their backup. Look, Sean Payton's definitely had a lot of coaching points. And let me just say this, just a little backstory. During the week when they were holding joint practices, it was not bad. I mean, it was not good. It was bad. Sean Payton was coming, and telling the press or whatever, people working from the press for the Broncos, like Zach Stevens and Eric Delilah, they were coming on live after practice and going, that was not good. The Rams were literally able to do whatever they wanted. They had their way with the Broncos. It was a disaster. The offense was moving, right? Defensively, the Broncos couldn't get anything going. And they were like, this is the first time we've seen Sean Payton mad, right? And I was like, damn. I was like, and kind of for Bronco fans, the Rams are the reason we fired Nathaniel Hackett. Well, that's not the only reason, but when we got beat like 50-14, right? That embarrassing loss, he was fired the next day. So I was kind of sad he got fired the day after Christmas, but it's a business and you can't get embarrassed like that. And that's what happened here. And that's the whole point. The Broncos surprised the hell out of me. Defensively, they were making moves. Drew Sanders, our linebacker that we drafted in the second round out of Arkansas, I knew exactly what we drafted him for. When he was drafted, I said he is supposed to cover the running backs, because last year, even the Seahawks game I went to week 1, all they had to do was dump it off to the running back, and the running back was getting 7, 8, 9, 10 yards every single time because our outside linebackers didn't have the speed or angle to get the running backs down. When I saw cover linebacker with speed, I knew immediately what he was here to do. I just hadn't seen him do it yet in the NFL. I saw him do it in, college, but the NFL is a different speed. It's a different level. Can it work? Can he do what you drafted him to do? Can he fill the weakness? He did. He was flying around the ball. He was hitting people hard. He got an interception. He looked great. He definitely looked like he earned himself some serious playing time. And this is going to be this is looking really good. The mistakes they made week 1 to week 2 to week 3, what I can tell you is this: the Denver Broncos look like they're morphing into a different team every time I see them. And although that sounds like a really good thing because they won their last game 41-0, it's also not a good thing because it shows that there's still so much to learn and that we're so early. We're still early in the Sean Payton um, effects of him coming to Denver. This is going to be a transition. Yeah, maybe the Rams happened to have a really bad day and the Broncos had a day where they didn't make any mistakes. Um, and there was still a couple mistakes, but you get what I'm saying. Is that going to help when you're playing a team like the Chiefs, right? They're not going to give you any passes. So I'll say it's looking really good, but I can still see once the lights come on and it's week 1 and we're playing starters, we got Miami and the Jets, in the first 5 weeks. Are they going to be further along in their developing where they can actually play competitive football against some of the elite teams in the NFL? That's something that we won't know until we have a true test, and that'll be week 1 against the Raiders, a team we haven't beaten in 3 years for some reason. So Steve said his defense is claiming he had to drive due to playing Pokemon Go on his phone. Said he needed a weapon in case he encountered Giovanni. The drugs were only to distract the Giovanni for victory. Where do you come up with this stuff? That is keep it up, Steve. I want more of that. So, I mean, man, I can't tell you though how happy I was. I watched that game. I don't remember the last time I watched a Denver Broncos game and said, I want to watch that again. I mean, I really don't. And that's kind of sad, but can we just give a round of applause for me for a second? Give me a round of applause for my team being awesome. I mean, gosh, you're like preseason doesn't matter. Oh, 28-0 preseason doesn't matter. 30-0, that's kind of an ass whooping. But 41-0, I don't care if you're playing a preseason practice squad team drills. Like when it's that lopsided, that's some good shit, right? I'll take that all day. Obviously, there's a lot of cuts going, and it would be easy to just kind of roll right into, well, let's pick our week 1 games, but I don't want to do that just for, right now. We're still in the dead week of the NFL season. And to be quite frank, the focus for the ball clubs right now is not week 1, but it's about who's going to make the 52-man roster. Who's going to make it, right? I mean, you got a lot of competition. Denver has a really good tight end competition because they brought in Adam Trotman, but they drafted Greg Dulcich in the first round last year. And then 3 years ago, we drafted Albert O, who had one-hand catches and touchdowns, and he was in the game in the fourth quarter. It looked like Denver was going to cut him, and they said, give me a reason to keep you on the team. You got the entire game to do it. And he gave them like 5 reasons to keep him. And let's go through, because that makes it for a very tough conversation. Who do we keep? Who do we get rid of? Well, let's go through some of the cuts, okay? These are the cuts team by team. So the Bills, they have cut 2 wide receivers, Isaiah Coutler and Desmond Patman. They cut a tight end, Jay Sternberger, an offensive tackle, an offensive lineman, a defensive tackle, 2 linebackers, and a safety. The Miami Dolphins have cut a lot of people, including 6 linebackers, 3 wide receivers, Freddie Swain, James Blackman, a quarterback. I'm looking for some names that might stand out. But the thing is people that stand out normally don't get cut. DeMarcus Mitchell for the Patriots, Trace McSorley, 3 defensive backs, 2 tight ends, 1 wide receiver, Trey Nixon. The New York Jets cut quarterback Chris Streveler. Streveler was the guy that actually came in for the Jets during the game where Zach Wilson wasn't benched. So he was cut. Running back Damara Crockett and running back Zonovan Knight were both cut. Wide receiver Alex Erickson was cut. Couple pieces on the offensive line, 2 linebackers, 2 safeties, a defensive back. Baltimore Ravens, Shamar Bridges, wide receiver, cut. Dante Damas Jr., cut. Guard Jake Guidon, cut. Defensive tackle Trey Botts, cut. Another DT, another linebacker, a cornerback, a safety, and 2 defensive backs. Cincinnati Bengals, Terrell Basham is their only cut. 1 player. Cleveland Browns, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 3, 4 offensive linemen, defensive end, a linebacker, 2 corners, a safety, 2 defensive backs, and kicker Cade York. I'm not sure if the Browns had a kicker battle going on this preseason. Maybe they did. Pittsburgh Steelers cut quarterback Tanner Morgan and a lot more players. So I have noticed that sometimes the better the coach is, the more players that are being cut. And I think what that is certain coaches, Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, Andy Reid, they want to bring in, max out how many people they can bring in, 120 people. They know they have to cut it to a 52-man roster, but they bring in a lot of people so that they can find the diamond in the rough. I mean, the Steelers cut list, I'm not even going to go through it. It's like 20 people. The AFC South, the Houston Texans cut 7 people, 2 wide receivers, 3 offensive tackles, a corner, and a safety. The Indianapolis Colts have cut 2 running back Kenyon Drake has been cut. That's probably the first name I've actually noticed here. Some tight ends, wide receivers, 2 safeties, and a kicker. Jacksonville cut 3 players. Defensive tackle Henry Monduox, Derek Parrish, and Carson Tinkler. Tennessee Titans cut a running back, a wide receiver, 2 tight ends, and basically every other position, about a total of 12 people. AFC West, Denver cut Kendall Hinton, who you may remember during the COVID year when the entire Denver Broncos quarterback room was disqualified for not wearing a mask in the film room. Denver almost had to forfeit the game because they didn't have a quarterback. So in comes wide receiver Kendall Hinton, who played quarterback in college. Wait a second. No, he didn't. He was a wide receiver. He played quarterback in high school, and he just said, F it, let's go. And wow. I think the whole world felt kind of connected to this game because we've all wondered, maybe 3 beers in, I think I could throw a screen, you know what I mean? Just like a quick snap and throw. Like when you see people ask Patrick Mahomes, do you think a regular person could complete 1 pass in the NFL? And they're like, no, absolutely not. I see some of these like catch and throws and I'm like, come on, why can't you do a quick catch and throw? When Kendall Hinton played quarterback, we all got to see what this would look like in real life. Somebody with no quarterback experience to go in the game. He had like more interceptions than he had completions. It was awful. Everything was like had to be ran in the wild card. Anyway, he's in the Denver Broncos, or he's even in the Football Hall of Fame. the football from that game immediately went in. And he is now cut from the team, but he will be remembered. Kicker Elliott Fry, who was in a competition with Brett Maher, is cut. Isaiah Prince, 2 wide receivers, a D tackle, and Jack Lander, all cut. The Chiefs only cut 2 people. I was just talking about some of the better coaches bringing in more people. I guess when you win the Super Bowl, you already got the people. The Raiders cut some people that we don't know. The Chargers cut 7 people, a linebacker, 2 offensive tackles, quarterback Max Duggan. The New York Giants, James Robinson cut. And now I'm interested about that because I saw James Robinson last year for the Jaguars get traded to the Jets in the middle of the season. And I was thinking, oh, that's going to be good. James Robinson with Breece Hall. And then Breece Hall got hurt. And I think James Robinson got hurt and they didn't keep him. And I didn't really know where he fiddled off to. And it looks like he fiddled off to New York. And I'm surprised. Not good enough to make the 52-man roster. James Robinson cut from the New York Giants. 2 wide receivers, Jaden Mixon and Colin Johnson, cut. 3 offensive tackles, Corey Cunningham, DeVary Hamilton, and Julian Davenport, all cut. Jack Anderson cut. Wyatt Davis cut. Defensive back Zion Gilbert cut. Tashawn Bauer cut. Brandon Bryant cut. Donovan Jeter cut. Kevin Atkins cut. Troy Brown cut. Darren Evans cut. So definitely a lot of cuts there. The Philadelphia Eagles cut wide receiver Tyree Cleveland. He was a 7th round draft pick out of the University of Florida, I believe 3 or 4 years ago. Still trying to find a spot to a roster to get on. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I got a couple of these teams. I got a good amount of them, but you're seeing right now, I mean, as soon as that final preseason game ends, it's like everybody's on the phone. You got GMs calling GMs. Everyone's trying to figure out who to cut. Some really tough decisions to make, especially for the people that performed really well in the preseason. And look, the nature of the beast is that there's going to be players that went out in the preseason. They had a good game. They earned a roster spot, and they're still going to get cut. And the question is, where do they go next? So, I mean, there's a lot of players that are just kind of in a reserve waiting for some injuries to happen. And Bill said, we're down to 75 people already on the roster. Steve said the Bears made a good choice cutting their former backup quarterback. The new guy looks like he may be their future starter. Only one of the 3 who look decent passing. Their future starter. So are we saying that Justin Fields is their future starter? We do agree that Justin Fields is the guy that you're talking about when the new guy looks like he may be the future starter. Or is this one of those hot takes? I got to know. Bill said Steve seems more like an Antonio Brown storm off the field guy. And he said that because Steve said, I think I could easily throw a tantrum on the field like Cam Newton, just saying. And look, the roster cuts, it's a part of the deal, right? The NFL released a projection projecting win share leaders on offense, quarterbacks and non-quarterbacks, and defense. So this is interesting. So this is basically to give you an idea of what this is. This is inspired by the idea of wins above replacement in baseball and real plus minus in basketball. So it's a created metric that measures the contribution of each player, position group, and side of the ball for every snap of the NFL season. And it's called win share to reflect the fact that 11 players are working together on the field for each team at any given time, meaning that the share part is really big factor. And the interconnectedness took a lot of time to model out. The metric is built around the number of times a player impacts first downs and touchdowns that lead to wins or losses, either by creating first downs and touchdowns on offense or by preventing them on defense. On ball impact, like when a wide receiver is targeted directly, and off ball impact, like when a wide receiver draws coverage away from other players on the field, resulting in a better matchup for somebody else that gets somebody else yards. Um, so they're both measured. The win share adds up all the positive on and off ball plays and subtracts the negative ones in order to help attribute the value of each player and each phase of the game, as represented by the number of wins each player is responsible for on an individual level in a given season. Personnel on the field, game situations, matchups, all factored in to the degree that it's possible. Now, the important part, who will pace the NFL in win share in 2023? Below you'll find the top 5 projected leaders among quarterbacks, non-quarterback offensive players, and defensive players. So this whole thing is basically an algorithm that is created to subtract the good stuff, or add the good stuff, subtract the bad stuff, and see which players are making the most impact on their team and which players are responsible for the highest win share. Number 1 on the list, take a wild guess. No, I'm not. I was going to tell you, but take a guess. All right, fine. I'll tell you. You know what? Here's what I'll do. I'm going to start at the quarterback position, and I'm going to start at number 5 instead of number 1. The number 5 win share at 6.29, Lamar Jackson, quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. My models really like the pairing of Jackson with new offensive coordinator Todd Monken. My models also like the catch and run potential of the pass catchers on Baltimore's offense. That said, my models do have some questions about the Ravens' defense, which means controlling the game on the offensive side of the ball becomes even more crucial in a very difficult AFC North. The volatility. Look at that. I've never even heard this word in my entire life. Does that mean like vital? The volatility in Baltimore's outcome is higher than any other team in 23. The season could go really well, or it could be a tough sledding. My models like the risk, though, and Baltimore was an extremely volatile. Did they really go with that word twice? You got to be kidding me. Okay, Lamar Jackson, number 5. Aaron Rodgers, number 4. I've been trying to mathematically show how much certain quarterbacks help their offensive lines for quite some time. This could be the year when I really get the formula down. The O-line is one of the biggest areas of concern for the talented Jets squad, and now you're starting to hear them talk about this more. Remember when we hit this like 2 weeks ago? And we said, look, this is really a big deal. Like, this is not a small time thing, okay? So I'm happy now that we're seeing it talked about. That's pretty dope, though. We did it first here on Only Football, so I'm pretty excited about that. So this is what they say. Can the unit hold up long enough to, on a snap-by-snap basis, to allow Rodgers to do his thing? How much time does Rodgers typically need to spin magic? In order to attempt that latter question, I crunched the numbers on Rodgers' past 3 seasons in Green Bay. Isolating every snap from where the to-go distance was 5 or fewer yards, the Packers passed the football. In that scenario, Rodgers only needed an average of 1.3 seconds to earn a first down or touchdown. Last season, the league-wide average among all NFL quarterbacks was 1.7 seconds. Remember, they had to earn the first down or touchdown. I get that 0.4 seconds seems like a tiny difference at first blush, but that's an average over a ton of attempts. This helps illustrate that Rodgers, given his rare processing ability, only needs an offensive line to be passable for him to succeed. This is a very good point. This is probably not shocking. We've heard about this with Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the least sacked quarterback. Well, it has nothing to do with that. It's you get a little bit older and you're thinking, okay, like when you're younger, you can rely on your athleticism. You know what I mean? You can just make amazing plays. When you get a little bit older, you rely on this. You're like, okay, I don't have a lot of time. I can't really scramble. I'm not as mobile as I used to be. I'm going to go to my first read. If it's not there, I'm going here at the 1 second mark. If that's not there, I got my check down at 1.3 seconds. Okay. And you get rid of the ball really quick. And that really helps the offensive line because the defense gets tired because they're rushing you, but they're not getting to you. If you do dump offs or screens, the big guys got to go run down the field. There's a lot of things that Aaron Rodgers and the Jets can do offensively to help out this offensive line. And Rodgers being a veteran, the highest caliber veteran currently still in the NFL, he's definitely going to make a big difference versus a guy like Zach Wilson. So I think the Jets, I think it's going to be an issue at times. I do think they're going to give up sacks. But I don't think it's going to turn, it's not going to, destroy their season by any means. Number 3, Joe Burrow, 6.47. Potential proof that Burrow is indeed a robot. The effectiveness of his throws on downs after he's been under pressure, like taking a sack or a hit or having a player enter his 3-foot halo. On average last season, NFL quarterbacks saw a dip in passer rating of 22.3% on the very next throw after pressure. For Burrow, though, the dip was just 1.8%. So think about this. A quarterback gets sacked or he gets hurried or he gets pushed down. The next play, the NFL quarterback average for the NFL saw a dip in passer rating of 22.3%. That means that they were very less accurate after getting their head spun around a little bit. For Burrow, though, the dip was just 1.8%. Insane. While Zach Taylor deserves credit for the savvy playing calling after pressures, that's an absurd figure. For context, the other 4 guys on this list averaged a passer rating decrease of 8.4% on such plays. Last season, so the other guys on this list, right? Aaron Rodgers, we talked about Lamar Jackson. They all, and then we haven't told you who's number 1 or number 2, but I'm sure you can figure it out. The average of those guys is 8%, 8.4%. So Burrow is, he's going to be great. Last season, he set a career high with 35 touchdown passes. This season, they're saying that these models are projecting a median of 37 scoring strikes with 40 at the top end mark. I wanted to point that out because Burrow could easily lead the league in passing touchdowns. And I said it here. I said the Bengals and the Bengals and the Patriots. The Bengals and the Dolphins are my 2 teams that I think will have a top 5 and top 10 defense. The Patrick Mahomes, number 2. The reigning regular season MVP and Super Bowl MVP has been the most accurate off-platform thrower. And that just means when his feet aren't ideally set for a throw. Every season since 2018 by at least 8.5 percentage points. If I isolate quarterbacks and their respective top pass catchers on off-platform throws over the last 3 years, Mahomes and Travis Kelce's connection not only blows away all others in terms of volume, but also is at least 11 percentage points ahead of any other duo. The only reason Mahomes ranks below Allen on this list is because the Chiefs' path in the AFC West are a bit easier than the Bills' journey and the way the AFC East is right now. So Patrick Mahomes in at number 2, and number 1, Josh Allen. He's basically saying here that he's never going to stop being impressed with Josh Allen and his ability to throw strong passes as measured by velocity using computer vision in a variety of situations, such as operating off platform or on the run. The Bills quarterback hurled 3 of the 5 highest velocity throws last season, including one pass that resulted in a 98-yard touchdown. Additionally, of his 124 rushes, which, by the way, produced 762 yards, a healthy 6.1 yard average, 55 resulted in a first down, and 7 in touchdowns. That was last year, though, and this article is looking forward. This offseason, Buffalo bolstered the offensive line, specifically at guard, with free agent signee Connor McGovern joining the party on the left, and second-round pick O'Cyrus Torrence. By the way, Connor McGovern, by no means a tier 1 offensive guard, so let's just be clear about that. The Bills also changed the strategy at running back. They added a dynamic tight end, first-rounder Dalton Kincaid, who will create a ton of new options for a team that ran the least amount of 12 personnel in the league last season. Maybe those who pegged Allen for the MVP award last season were a year too early. And this is what we talked about a couple months ago, about people moving off of the Buffalo Bills so quick just because they got beat embarrassingly bad against the Bengals at home. It's like a lot of times we're a year too early. A lot of times we're a year too early for MVPs or whatever the case is. I think the Bills have what it takes to go out there and have an amazing year and remind everybody, hey, we still got Josh Allen. We still got Von Miller. We got an offense. We got better offensive linemen. We got, a rock star tight end in the draft. We're going to be all right. We got, the heart and soul of this team back. Damar Hamlin at safety. This is a team that is angry now. And I don't know if we've ever saw Buffalo play a year angry. I know you could say, oh no, when they lost in overtime. But honestly, let's just be real. Losing to Patrick Mahomes in a game like that was he might as well have won it. People were raving about his performance, and everybody said, oh, if he got the ball, the Bills would have won. So people were all in on the Bills. And then whatever, last season happened. They weren't a terrible team. They're still in the playoffs. They still had to win a playoff game. But whatever, shit went south. I think that this is a team that we shouldn't jump off so quick. And, with Hard Knocks going with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets and Dalvin Cook going to the Jets and Vic Fangio going to the Dolphins, it's easy to be more excited about the Dolphins. Because the Bills are kind of old news now. There's nothing new really. No one cares that they got a new offensive lineman or a new line or they upgraded. No one really gives a shit about that unless you're a Bills fan. People like Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. They like Tua, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. That's still new. Mike McDaniel's kind of quirky. We like him. We're drawn to what's fun and exciting, but that doesn't change what is old and true. And this is a lesson Rick taught me last year with the Chiefs. I bought into the Russell Wilson thing, and I said, no, I think the Broncos can take the division this year. And he said, sometimes, you just need to know what you know and just not second guess it. Like, the Chiefs will always be the favorite to win the AFC West. And he turned out to be right about that. And my question is, what really happened to Buffalo for us to pull back so hard? One game, one loss. I'm not sure I'm there yet. I think Buffalo could still be a strong team. And Bill said, who is this Burrow you speak of, Kyle? This Is this guy certified and circumcised to be a quarterback in the NFL? I have no idea if he's circumcised or not. Don't plan to get the answer to that, but he is Joe Burr, ice cold, and the stats prove it. So that is it. You got Joe Burrow at number 2 or at number 3, Patrick Mahomes at number 2, and number 1 you got Josh Allen. Now, who's going to make the biggest difference as a non-quarterback? Number 1 ranks in at Justin Jefferson, wide receivers. So these are going to be your skill positions. Justin Jefferson says, when it comes to Jefferson, there's no shortage of awesome stats and metrics, whatever. He's entering his second season with Kevin O'Connell calling the plays. Jefferson figures to be even more potent. And honestly, you got to think too with the tight end or the wide receiver that they drafted out of USC. I'm blanking on his name right now, but they're not going to be able to just cover him. They're going to have to keep an eye on that wide receiver that they drafted. I expect him to, be a starter day one. So number 2, Nick Chubb. And I love that Nick Chubb's getting some love here because he's consistently good. He's never averaged fewer than 5 yards a carry in his career. And sometimes we'll, go Derrick Henry or some of the other guys. In his first 5 seasons, Nick Chubb has never averaged fewer than 5 yards a carry. That's insane. That is a conventional stat that pops off the page. Using computer vision, I can drill down a bit more on what makes Nick Chubb so special. Over the past 3 seasons, Nick Chubb boasts top 3 rates in ability to avoid contact and his ability to keep his center of gravity in a favorable place through balance of the run. We heard about it growing up when we played football, ballet. Ballet is a really crucial thing. When you see wide receivers do it, running backs do it too. They're saying that his ability to keep himself upright and to keep his balance in the center of gravity in a favorable place to balance for running, Nick Chubb is in a league of his own. And that's true. You don't normally see Nick Chubb kind of wobbling. He always seems like he's going north-south, downfield, and he's got a lot of power. With Kareem Hunt's departure this offseason, the 27-year-old, Nick Chubb's only 27 years old. That is crazy. I feel like he's like 29. And 2 years makes a big difference for, football. So he's going to get more of a workload running behind a stout offensive line, best in the country. Chubb could enjoy his best season yet. And I agree with that. I'm trying to make a trade for Nick Chubb right now. Travis Kelce at number 3. Not surprised to see this one because Travis Kelce is Patrick Mahomes' number 1 dude, right? Bill said, Allen's weakness if coin flips, right? Not anymore because we changed the rule. I don't know. That was a trial period, but it didn't become relevant in the postseason last year. So I wonder if the NFL is sticking with that rule this year in the postseason. Because remember, that rule only applied to the postseason. And I thought it was a trial period. So I'll look into that. Number 4, Derrick Henry. Since I started tracking win share, Henry's off-ball numbers have consistently rated off the charts. You know who I'm surprised isn't on this list is George Kittle. I swear, when I watched that 49ers game, the playoff game against the Cowboys, I did not realize how much George Kittle does for that team. He is a true tight end. He's not a wide receiver. He has great pass catching abilities, but his role on the offensive line in the running game and even chipping these defensive ends before he runs his routes, that's the reason that that 1.5 second difference between a sack and the ball getting thrown, a lot of times to him, even on a play that he chipped. He chipped the guy. He's the only reason the quarterback has enough time to make the throw. Then he catches the ball, and then he runs for who knows how long. I mean, this guy makes a huge difference. He is not as flashy in the receiving game and, and doesn't have his own podcast, but George Kittle is a hero on that offensive team, and probably, the leader. I mean, you think about it, is Brock Purdy? No, I mean, George Kittle is the leader of that team. He would give a lot of shit to Drew Lock, or not Drew Lock, to Brock Purdy, because they had rival schools. But it was in a laughing way, and it was fun, and you could tell he's like a little brother to him. So I'm super pumped about this season for George Kittle. I think this is the year the 49ers, they could do something special, but their window's closing, or it appears to be, because it's going to be time to pay some people soon. And we know that there's just too much talent. So after Derrick Henry at number 4, because George Kittle's not on this list, I just wanted to say that. Amon-Ra St. Brown is on the list at number 5. A native Michiganer and a Lions fan. I know Amon-Ra is a stud, but I'm not going to lie. This ranking was a pleasant surprise. According to Computer Vision, St. Brown ranked 3rd among all receivers last season when it came to gaining separation out of the slot, where he's primarily lined up, by the way. Admittedly, this ranking is partially driven by the absence of Jameson Williams over the first 6 games, which will increase Detroit's reliance on St. Brown. That said, he also carries a bunch of off-ball value, especially in Detroit. A Detroit team that's likely to routinely target a pair of rookies in the passing game, Jahmyr Gibbs and tight end Sam Laporta. So, additional non-QB notes: Davante Adams came in at number 6. Christian McCaffrey trails Davante Adams by 0.1. So you have CMC and Davante Adams right there next to each other. And then for non-QBs, like who's making the biggest difference defensively? Well, look no further than the defensive player of the year last year, Nick Bosa. Win share 2.39. Football coaches often talk about a player's cylinder, basically his torso, typically using the term to refer to how squarely an offensive lineman can put his body in the path of a defender to slow him down. It makes sense that if a defender has a clear path to the QB, it results in a harder hit, or at least more effective pressures. One reason Bosa tops this list: no one produced effective pressure on opposing QBs at a higher rate last season than the Niners, when a lineman actually had a square angle on him during the play. In other words, according to Computer Vision, Bosa was slowed down the least when blockers were in position to do their job. And then, look, we saw the film. Anytime Nick Bosa was on the field, it was a problem. And it was very clear that Nick Bosa, in my opinion, was the best defensive player in the country last year. The only person that you could make an argument is Micah Parsons. Number 2, Myles Garrett. Garrett fell just short of Nick Bosa. I needed another digit to the win share in order to display the tiny gap. Over the past 3 seasons combined, the Brown Star actually ranks number 1 in the cylinder base metric I just described in the Bosa blurb, creating effective pressure on opposing quarterbacks despite blockers having a square angle on you. Basically, it doesn't matter what they do. Even in the perfect scenario, they can't stop him. Okay. And Garrett was double or triple teamed over this period of time at the 3rd highest rate in the league, meaning he wasn't facing one cylinder, but multiple. Basically, the man is a force. And then you got Micah Parsons at number 3. This is going to be interesting because we know Micah Parsons is lining up at a different position. He was in the linebacker box, and now he's coming up to that edge spot. I define burst as the speed a player reaches in the first 3 yards traveled. According to Computer Vision, Parsons has the fastest burst on a per rush basis over the past 2 seasons. It helps that he gets a bit more space to work with than many of his peers based on where he typically lines up. But Parsons also has a top 10 win rate when blockers are squared on him. Ooh. And then TJ Watt, of course, belongs in here. The 2021 DPOTY will return to form after an injury messed up his 22 campaign, partially because he's just such a balanced defender when it comes to all the metrics that are linked to edge rushing success. Despite totaling just 5.5 sacks over 10 games last season, Watts still ranked top 5 in burst, contact, win rate, and fatigue. He's a relentless QB hunter who just checks all of the boxes. And number 5 might be a little interesting. It might be a little premature, in my opinion. But you know how the NFL loves hype. Sauce Gardner. And look, I'm not being a hater. Sauce Gardner, he's good. He's a really good cornerback. But it's just 1 year. I'm wondering if the more film that's on him, because we know that he was playing really tight. I mean, it felt like a lot of times he was getting away with a lot. This year, with the film on them, I believe the refs are going to be looking at this, because at the end of the day, if you slow a play down and a player is being pushed before they have an opportunity to make a catch, that is going to be brought up later in the year. I could make probably an entire 5-minute highlight reel of PI not being called on Sauce Gardner. He's a really good corner, but I'm expecting those calls to be made this season. And I expect once those calls to be made, him to maybe play a less aggressive version, or maybe he won't and he'll just stick with it. But until I see how he responds to some of these penalties being thrown this year, I'm going to hold off on, putting him at number 5. I would rather put, honestly, Jalen Ramsey there. Jalen Ramsey had 1 year where that whole team basically checked out emotionally. What, week 5, week 6? We can't just forget who people are like that. It's out of order. And I think Jalen Ramsey is going to remind everybody when he's able to come back, probably November-ish. I hope he can come back. I think he's going to make a big difference. Maybe Sauce Gardner, the best cornerback in the league, but we'll have to reevaluate it at the end of the year. I think there's a guy named Patrick Surtain, PS2. He might have something to say about it too. And then Steve said, did DeMar Hamlin play at all during the preseason? Is he still with the Bills this season, or he's taking the season off? He is playing this season. I don't know if he's going to start, but he's been working with the first team. And then Bill said he is good, and one good rep on Hyatt after Jalen cooked him twice is all you see on replay. Yep. Sauce Gardner. You know how the hype is, though. I mean, everybody gets attached to a person. We're going to wait and see. And those are the players that are expected to make big moves. So I'm honestly looking back on it. I'm surprised to see Jalen Hurts not on that list anywhere. I mean, I physically watched Jalen Hurts take over football games with his legs, with his arms, with the 4th and 1. I mean, did that go into the metrics? How many times does he continue a drive on 4th and 1? What were they, like 25 for 25 last year? Were they ever stopped on 4th and 1? One time. Can you remember one time they were stopped? I mean, I don't know. I'm seeing Jalen Hurts not really getting a lot of love. And to be honest, I don't really understand it. Because when Jalen Hurts got injured week 16, week 17, the Eagles started losing. So for all the people that were like, oh, he's just a part of a good offense, or he's just part of a really good team. Yes, we got to get into this world where we understand both things can be true. Jalen Hurts was on the best roster in the NFL. Jalen Hurts was also a really good quarterback, a great quarterback on the best roster in the NFL. That's why they went to the Super Bowl. We already saw what this team looks like without Jalen Hurts at the end of the year. So I don't even know why we have to have this conversation. It's not like metaphorically, we don't really know. I mean, we saw Jalen Hurts come out. We saw what that team looked like. I mean, it was bad. Were the Eagles even wanting to play Hurts week 18? No, but they had to because they wanted to secure the number 1 seed. And they didn't feel like they could do that because they had been losing without him. So yeah, Jalen Hurts should have been on this list. He was robbed, and I'm mad. And I just want to go through here really quick, see if I didn't cover anything. This was a fun one I wanted to do. EA executive on Madden soundtrack said, "We didn't want Madden NFL to sound like your parents' sport. When it's time to party, we party hard. It's only fitting that some of the first words heard when a player booted up Madden NFL 2003 Express celebration." What's funny too is when I got the Madden and I put it in, the first thing I noticed was, dang, they got real music, because for so long it sounded like a Netflix, TV Netflix original movie soundtrack of, they couldn't afford, the Warner Brothers can get Drake and Snoop Dogg, but, low budget film, they got to get private, copyright music, and it's not bad, but it's just it's always sounds like something you've never heard before. I put this in, and like Wiz Khalifa was, rapping, and I was like, dang, they got the real deal going on this year. And then I see this article about their music. So we're going to take a real quick look at week 1. We're not going to be making any predictions. I just want to go through and remind everybody listening about week 1. We're going to talk about it a lot more next week, but in case you're listening and you want to know who your team plays, week 1 will go like this. We are officially, I guess technically it's Tuesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, 7. We're 9 days away from football. In the 9 days from now, we'll see the Lions and the Chiefs, Panthers and the Falcons, Texans, Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Jags, Colts, Bucks, Vikings, Titans, Saints, 49ers, Steelers, Cardinals, Commanders, Packers, Bears, Raiders, Broncos, Dolphins, Chargers, Eagles, Pats, Rams, Seahawks, Cowboys, Giants, Sunday Night Football. Waiting all day for Sunday night. All right, here's the junk on NBC. Daniel Jones and Saquon on, they're the best on TV. I don't know how they do it. Carrie Underwood's got me. Bills and Jets on Monday night. Welcome to New York City, where the Jets will be taking on Buffalo Bills. Gosh, I'm so jacked, guys. I can't wait. 9 days away, and we're going to be going all around. It's going to be crazy. And then Steve saying Hurts needs another season with the same performance level before people give him the okay, I think. And that's totally it. I said the same thing about his 89 overall Madden rating. I was like, you know what? I know what's going to happen. He's going to have to do it one more time, and then he's going to be like a 95. So I agree with that. He's definitely got to do it one more time, but he's going to. He's going to. I'm not even going to knock on wood because he's that good. Ooh. All right. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. The Giants. Where are the Giants? Who do the Giants play? Didn't they play on Friday? Who did the Giants play this last week in the they played the Jets, and they lost 32-24. The Chiefs won 33-32. The Steelers, man. The Steelers, I'm telling you. I'm looking at the Steelers team, and I'm thinking these Steelers might be good this year. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Did you hear what Ryan Clark said on the Pivot podcast? He said that the wide receiver, not Kenny Pickett, Pickens, George Pickens, I think he said that he's a more talented receiver than Justin Jefferson. Now, this is the part of the season where we're going to hear atrocious takes just because people want to, I don't know, make a splash. But we also have to find the truth in what he's saying. And what is that? George Pickens is a very good wide receiver. And everything I'm hearing from the training camp and the people that are on the field in Pittsburgh are saying, yo, this dude is going to ball out. And if we know one thing, it's that the Steelers breed wide receivers. This is what they do. The Steelers are a pretty complete team. They have a two-headed monster now. They're getting a lot of production. They've ramped up their offensive line. Kenny Pickett's going into year 2. There's a lot to love about this team, even if they're in a really tough division. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to that game. I'm going to tell you right now, I got the Steelers winning week 1. The Commanders are another game I got at week 1. I found like a 5-leg parlay for $700, and it went like this. It was the Giant. No, I didn't have the Giants in it. I had the Commanders over the Cardinals. That's definitely going to happen. I had the Steelers because they're playing the 49ers week 1. And as much as I think the Steelers are going to have the better season, I also know that the 49ers typically start slow. Last year, I think they were 1-3 week 4. And the Steelers, they always play well the first game. TJ Watt won't be injured, knock on wood. He'll play that whole first game for sure. And we know that the Steelers are the best Steelers with TJ Watt on the field. Look, my whole thing is this game's in Pittsburgh. I'm not saying that the Steelers are going to win it, but I think the spread was 2 points. So I would take the Steelers with the points. And if they do lose the game, I say hopefully it's by 1 point. But that's got to be your bold pick. There's going to be some weirdness week 1. We always got to, kind of prep for that. So I'm gonna go with Steelers week 1 with those points. And then I like the Vikings over the Bucks at home. Jags Colts. I like the Jags, but I'm staying away from that game because it's Anthony Richardson's debut. It's a home opener. They're in Indianapolis. Forget about that. The Ravens over the Texans, of course, we'll add that to the list. And then I got the Lions with the points. I think the Chiefs are favored to win by 7. I say that the Chiefs win by less than 7. So I think that game's going to be closer than the books think. Those are some of the picks I got right off the bat. We're obviously going to do a deeper dive into that next week. But, excuse me, I'm getting so old. I got to talk through burps. But those are the things that I learned in the preseason. Those are the things I'm looking forward to. This Wednesday, I'm going to have another list of things that I'm looking for week 1. Some big questions I have week 1 that will be answered immediately that will tell the story of how I believe the season will go. I'll tell you what those big questions are on Wednesday's episode on Only Football. Look out for that Twitter message. I'll let you guys know again when we're going live. I'm trying to find the time that works best for everybody. And I noticed at nighttime we've been getting a crowd in here. Everything, people are just getting pumped up for the regular season. And then Steve, talking about the Steelers, said they definitely know how to draft linebackers. Their Hall of Fame and Team Hall of Fame proves that. And now they have, generational talent with Joey Porter and his son now at cornerback. So I'm looking for this team to make a big step. Mike Tomlin's not going to roll over. They're going to get a winning record. They won 9 games last season. So the question for me is, why can't they win 10 with a better team? We'll see. So thank you guys for listening. Connect the device running camo. Oh, I think something happened to my device, but thank you guys for listening. Follow me at Twitter at FTBLONLYPODCAST. And you can follow my partner Rick at And Now Rick, ANDNOWRICK. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment on this video, especially after it's posted. That helps boost our algorithm. Thank you guys for coming in. And I will see you guys in a couple days. Steve, Bill, you guys are the freaking best. Always a pleasure having you in here. Can't wait to see you guys in a couple days. Have a good one. Go Broncos. See ya.